So welcome today, and I'm delighted to be introducing you to my colleague Ali Hunter. Both of us have come in to support YouthLink Scotland just in the last couple of months since lockdown. And it's great to have him on the call today. So I'm mostly going to let Ali introduce himself. So I'm going to ask him a couple of questions just to get us going, and then hand over to him. So Ali, would you like to just say hello to folk and tell us a little bit about your role both at YouthLink and at your social enterprise, Be More Human?
Thank you, Hilary. Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to see you. Great to see so many old friends and faces in the room today, and so many new faces as well. So, Ali Hunter, my name. I've been a youth worker for 20-something years now. I spent the first 12 years working in Fife in Livermouth, real kind of tough reality down there, working in arts, sports, street work, and social enterprises, and just learned there firsthand the absolute power and potential that there is in young people if we set the right environment for them to grow. I then spent 8 years or so working with the YMCA George Wildens College in London, teaching undergraduate programmes, trying to help that next generation of workers come through and help them be a bit wild. So there's a few ex-students here in the room. I see Ryan just nodding his head and just staring at me going, yeah, that's Hunter, that's the one. So I did that, headed off to Australia for a wee bit more recently, and since 2016 I've dabbled in and around like behavioural science, positive psychology, and then brought those back into youth work and community development. So when we're talking about changing people, how does that actually change? How does youth work change people's lives? What does that look like? And what are the golden threads that have run through this 20 years? So mostly I do that through Be More Human social enterprise. We do training, we do a lot of online work and moving a lot of stuff online. So clients from RBS, where we're training RBS staff around the world, right down to local youth work projects, and all are brilliant because all involve the potential of humans and young people coming to the fore. At YouthLink, I do workforce development, so the kind of long-term stuff around training, and then also the kind of what do we need right now. So current focuses are on digital youth work with Hilary, and detached and outreach youth work, which is something that we're dusting off out the cupboard and bringing back to the fore. So it's great to see that.
Okay, fantastic. Can I just say while I remember, if you could keep on mute, that's really, really helpful. Just kind of reduces the background noise. I think, Ali, you do have the power to mute the rest of us if you so desire.
Oh, yeah.
But actually, we prefer that folk keep that in their own domain and just stay muted. And with this many folk on the call, it's definitely the way to go. Okay, so thanks Ali for that little kind of quick mini tour around your career. Just tell us, just to kind of root this in right now, tell us about lockdown for you. What have been just maybe a quick lockdown highlight? You want to share a lockdown highlight for us?
Yeah, lockdown highlight, I guess. Well, obviously it's been here today. This is my.
Of course it is.
This is my highlight of lockdown. Yeah, I mean, I guess that the opportunity to really see people start to talk about a brighter and better future. You know, that is a really kind of, I think we're at a really kind of pivotal kind of moment in the crossroads and where we're at. So this idea that we are starting to think about, you know, building back better. And it's not just the optimists among us; it's all of us. So we've got a lot of way to go with that. But you know, I get that real sense of excitement around that we can actually create a world that is a little bit better than the one that we left in whenever it was, March. It seems like a million years ago.
Fantastic. Okay, so the next question is just the lead into the whole half hour. So I want to know how to bake some digital youth work. I know you're going to chat to us about relationships and how to build good relationships online. And I'm here very much to listen and learn and try and apply the thinking in all of what we're doing here at YouthLink. So I'm about to switch off my mute, but switch on my ears and sit back and listen to Ali.
Yeah, thank you, Ellie. So first thing, guys, thanks for coming. Thanks for spending your time with us. What I do today is we're doing this on the fly. That, you know, none of us are experts in this. And one of the best phrases that I've heard consistently throughout this process is don't let perfect get in the way of good. All right. And this idea that we've got to turn up perfect, that everyone's got to be right. See, my screen share has just disappeared there. I'm using a new platform and it's not working for me. Perfect example. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We're making this up as we go, and we literally are, you know, half a step ahead if we're really, really lucky. So don't let perfect get in the way of good. So we're going to talk about today just around this idea of baking youth work. What does that mean? What are the elements that are involved in that? I'm going to share some research. Did everybody bring a hot drink with them, or a drink of some sort? If you have, can you hold it up for me a wee bit? Right. So I want you to hold your drink. Just hold your drink for me, just with two hands if you can, and just have a wee look in the screen. I'm just going to mute myself, and I just want you to look whoever's on your screen. Okay, and I just want you just to know that you're in a room of people that are in the same boat, a room of people that care and are passionate in the same way that you are about young people. And I'll just mute for 30 seconds and just connect, just try and connect with the people around about you. Okay, right, that's folk starting to come into the room now. Come back. I hope you managed to have a chat with some colleagues. I do apologise in advance for moving you around quite a lot. I want to try and get as much interaction as possible and try and walk the walk a little bit. But right now, my screen's in front of me. I literally feel like I'm controlling the matrix. There's so much going on. It's a feeling I'm sure you all know. I see Neil laughing in the background there. I'm sure it's a feeling that we've all had, that fear and panic when there's just like so many people looking at you and you've got so many buttons and all sorts. Brilliant. Okay, I think we're all back in the room now. So let's just crack on through this. So the context of where we're at, we've moved online, we've had a wee chat about that. Problem we've got then is youth work is driven by and through relationships. Hopefully we can all agree on that. Relationships, I guess, is broadly defined as a way that two things are connected with each other. So the big challenge we've got, the problem we've got with that is that the way that we connect when we're physically in the same space as another person is entirely different from a biological and a psychological perspective when we have to do it online. So this idea is, which is, well, it's just youth work, it's just online. I get that and I understand that and I'm sympathetic with that, but the reality is when as human beings we're stripped of that ability to be next to somebody face to face, we have to accept that it's different. So we have to maybe think about our work a little bit differently. There are similarities that we'll talk about, but fundamentally being face to face with somebody and doing this over a screen, there are different rules at play. Okay, we don't govern those rules, they're buried deep within our brain, and I won't bore you with that right now. So the challenge is how do we get alongside and walk alongside our young people in a meaningful way? How do we help them navigate and construct the connections, the disconnections and the reconnections in their life in a digital first situation? And spot the typo, love it. We're doing it in the alpha, so typos are expected and welcome. How do we get alongside that? So I've concentrated on this idea of connections, disconnections and reconnections, because I think that sums up our youth work pretty well. Any situation that we might find ourselves in as youth workers will inevitably be around one of those three areas, generally speaking. We're going to get to that in a second. But first, I want you just to go back into your breakout rooms and share. Did you get the pre-work? Just a little question, say, write down 2 or 3 short phrases about a youth work relationship that you've developed with a young person and what made that special. I'm going to pop you into your rooms again quickly and then get you to chat about that amongst yourself. Make sure everybody gets a chance to speak, and then we'll come back and share. We'll share that here, and then we'll go on to have a wee look at some of the ingredients that have come up in the research. So I'll pop you back in those rooms now. What are the 3 things that made that youth work relationship special? Adele. So Adele, do you want to? We've got 2 Adeles here. How cool. No, it's 1 Adele. 2 Adele, yeah. You're muted, Hillary. There you go.
Pop her in group 11 if you don't have another obvious space, because that's where I'm supposed to be. And there might be shorter people to talk to.
Move to group 11. Okay, so. All right, guys. Do you want to just share here? We're kind of, some people are not getting fully into breakout rooms, but that's okay. Do you want to just share what those moments were in those youth work relationships? What made those relationships special?
I've got a great moment which actually led to a long-lasting friendship, I suppose, really, as this young person grew up. But when he was about 18 or 19, he was volunteering and uncertain whether he had anything to offer. But the kids in his group that he was supposed to be leading helped him as the volunteer. And I just think that kind of tells you such a lot about how these things work, that it's not all one way, it's kind of both ways.
Yeah, brilliant. Adele, have you got anything that you would think that might characterise a really good relationship with a young person that you've had?
So I've just started Zoom sessions with a girls group. So it's been quite interesting to see how that's been going. But I think the whole sense of connection and bringing everybody together was really special, and to see everyone kind of connect with one another and catch up with one another was really nice to see.
Yeah, brilliant. And we also got somebody else in the room. You don't have your name on your screen. Do you want to unmute yourself and say hi? Tell us. Oh, it's Rachel. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Rachel.
I think we've got Rachel and we've got somebody else. And somebody else, I would really like you to put your name up just for our security reasons. Otherwise, I'm actually going to ask you to leave the session. It's just a kind of requirement for YouthLink at the moment that we know who's on these Zoom calls.
Can I let you work through that one, Hillary, and I'll ask Rachel?
You want to make me host again, Ali? You want to just make me host? I don't think it'll stop you, and then I can do the breakouts for you next time around.
Okay. There you go.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
So can you call people back in, Hillary, at 20?
Yeah, so I'll just close the rooms. Yeah, so I'll just close the rooms now.
Great. Sorry, Rachel, where were we? Yeah. Anything that's kind of jumped up at you about a powerful relationship you've developed with a young person? What was there for you?
I've been working with a young person recently, and it took a while to get her to engage at all. And just this morning, actually, she sent her first WhatsApp message, and that's the first time she's actually reached out throughout the whole lockdown period. And it took us so long to actually get sessions in person, and now that she's actually reaching out during the lockdown, I think that's been quite a big breakthrough. So, been quite a big move forward for us.
That is amazing. Thank you very much for that. Hillary, can you make me co-hosts? So I think I might have transferred everything back to you. I don't have chat now for some random reason.
Right, participants, Ali, you are now a co-host.
Cool. All right.
If that doesn't work.
Did everybody have enough time to share at least something in the rooms? Yeah, cool. All right. So basically, just as folks now come back into the room, what I'd like to do is just get one or two bits of feedback on that. So if you'd like to kind of share what some of those moments were that helps you know that you've had a powerful relationship with a young person, you want to just kind of put your hand up and give us a wee wave and unmute yourself and say hi, and then if you don't want to speak out loud, can you feel free to post it in the chat. So anybody want to share with us what might make that relationship special? Robert.
Hi Ali, hi everyone. The relationship, I was thinking about the 3 words for the day is, I was at this project in a consistent way every week. So therefore I had the quality of the time. I was there every week, and the young person I was building up a strong relationship with and helping that person through a kind of situation or some sort of difficult issues. I gave her that person my quality time to build that relationship. I was there every week, and I could set aside some time, but within that, you had to be good at kind of listening to their story without kind of breaking in. You had to be good at trying to understand the situation without judging or prejudging what else was going on behind that story, but just giving them space and time to basically articulate their issues, support them to come up with where do they see the end goal, their end journey, and how they map that. So I suppose the kind of 3 words were kind of listening, understanding, but it's about that quality of time. You need to set aside a consistent level, a quality of time to build that relationship.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for sharing that, Robert. Everyone else, if you want to just pop that in the chat, we're going to gather these up and we're going to roll these into further training that we're doing. We're trying to learn from you guys as much as we possibly can, so we can develop these programs and where we go. I guess the perspective of that is we want to try and get you to connect with some of the ideas around what makes youth work special, and connection comes up again and again and again. This is just one very, very 30-second example of why connections matter. There's a great book, I don't know, maybe some of you have seen it, called Lost Connections by Johann Hari, talking about anxiety and depression. So you can't really mention a young person right now and out there without, the ideas that anxiety and depression have been around a young person. Anxiety and depression is mostly a social or an environmental thing. So mostly it's about a disconnection from the things that we need to keep us well. Think about what we do as youth workers. We build connection, we work around reconnection. I see some of you struggling to read the screen there. Don't worry about it. I've got a PDF of this that we can make available to you at the end. I'll pop it in the chat if I can, or if not, we can email it out to you. So all of this stuff is yours. Don't worry about the information on it. You'll get all of this stuff. So this is just one example of where our ability to connect is critically important. So we can connect online. So some of the ideas then, the ingredients, I guess, we want to talk about in the next sort of 10 minutes max is what are the things that we do actually need when we're thinking about our work online. Do we want to put into place to try and create that sense of connection? That sense of being with somebody, that sense of walking alongside somebody. So you might think that there's a massive body of evidence out there, that somebody's always doing it better. The reality is that there's not a massive amount of research around this. I've sat in some kind of real big, super high profile, super fancy kind of sessions that I've snuck in through the back door in the last few weeks. With these kind of big service design global players that are designing for the Nikes and the Adidas and the Facebooks of this world, and they don't know any better than we do when it comes to this stuff. arguably some of the stuff that we've talked about as youth workers in the last 6, 8, 12 weeks will be much more advanced about how we build connections than they are. So we are creating a lot of this as we go. These are some of the emerging bits that are coming out about how we build and sustain these relationships online. What we're really looking to create is something called empathetic interaction. So it's something that triggers within the person on the other side of the screen that response that we would naturally trigger when we're next to each other. So we're trying to create an environment or an action or an interaction or a connection that releases oxytocin. So basically it makes us feel good. So, you know, computer games do that. Computer games, you know, send like Fortnite. I don't know if any have got kind of do Fortnite or have kids around that play Fortnite. Things like Fortnite, for example, you know, are releasing, pressing hundreds and hundreds of triggers every minute on oxytocin. You know, so that's what we're dealing with here. And young people that we're dealing with, the interactions that they have with the screen are so normally so rammed full of that, do something, get a bit of feedback, do something, get a bit of feedback, do something, get a bit of feedback, instantly, like that, all the time. That's what they're used to. So then when we rock up as youth workers and we want to take it slow, we've got to have conversations, it might feel really weird for them. It probably will feel really weird for them. So we've then got to dig into our tool bag as youth workers and try and figure out what are the other ways that we can connect with them to slowly reel that back in and do that empathetic interaction. So some of the data that's coming through, we need things like presence, equality, autonomy, responsibility. The young people, that's what, if we can help them have, then that's what we'll give them, that empathetic interaction. Encourage them to bring their home self to the table, and then we'll talk lastly this morning just about what are the quick things that we do. So I'll run through this quickly. Presence, what do we mean by that? So senses, the hot cup at the start or the drink at the start where we all connected with each other. Hopefully you felt something with that. That was an oxytocin trigger. Okay, so what can we do? We can clap, we can snap, we can pass things, you know, try and figure out where we are on the screen, and we can connect with each other from a feelings perspective, a senses perspective. Listening. So when a young person is saying something back, like in a call, try and repeat back to them what they're hearing. It reinforces that you hear them and you see them. Okay, if you walk past a young person in the street, what's our natural reaction as youth workers? We go out the way to stop, to say hello, to tell them and show them that they are important to us and that we care. The way that we do that online is just by repeating wee bits back to them. That was really interesting that you said that. You know, that's really, really important. It's as simple as that. That just makes you feel like you're at home and that you're welcome there. Keeping interactions fresh and new. Try and keep things moving all the time. Like I said before, like young people are used to these interactions that take place online happening seconds. If you've got 45 minutes before you do your next bit of interaction, it's too long. If you've got 10 minutes, it's too long. Keep it moving, keep it moving. It requires a lot of prep, but you've got to keep it moving. You've got to help young people feel like they have a quality. So things like practicing radical transparency, this idea that the youth worker maintains the space and holds the boundaries, that has to happen obviously, but we need to almost pass some of that back to young people. So, you know, rule 101 with youth work, voluntary participation, right? If young people choose not to participate, they don't, we can't make them. To do that online, we've got to get, we've almost got to give a little bit more of that away. So saying things like, this isn't going to be perfect, we're going to mess up. If you know better, can you show me? Transferring some of that, maybe that power dynamic that might exist back to the young people and say, look, you know this better than I do, why don't you guide me? That helps that young person feel like they are a more equal part of this relationship, and that naturally helps them connect in a better way. Particularly if you think they're looking at the same, you know, square on their screen that they might be looking at with a teacher, or other places that maybe they don't like, or maybe it's challenging for them, and then you expect them, just because it's you in the screen, that they're going to be different with that. Not the case. It's hard to separate that sometimes. Using simple human language, keep it as real as you can. I know you all do that anyway. Autonomy and agency, as he says, talking about plain and simple language. Help young people have choices. Let them decide where they want to go next. So at the end of this session, we're going to ask you where you want to go next for this. We're not going to assume that we know where you want to go next. You're going to tell us, and then we're going to go there. So you will feel agency and you will feel autonomy, like you're guiding this process for us. That's what we're going to do at the end. So create that. Also create space. Don't feel that you have to fill every little moment with a chat. Okay, build in these bits of your program. Go away and think about that. Write it down. Draw a picture. We're going to take 60 seconds to think about that ourselves, and then we're going to come back and share. Just build those little moments of focused interaction in where the power rests with a young person. Acknowledge technical and cognitive capabilities. So basically, no, everybody is going to be good at this, right? Just because you're young, it doesn't mean to say you're going to have access to machinery that's decent, or know necessarily how to work that. So try and figure that out in advance and provide individual support where it's possible. Hopefully there's some really brilliant stuff coming around technical capability. I'm conscious of the time, so I'm rushing on through this to try and maybe get some chat at the end. Responsibility and accountability, really, really, really important. Building in skin in the game, right? If young people feel like they've got a reason or a purpose to be part of an interaction with you online, they're going to come back, they're going to engage with it a bit more. So try this idea of kind of co-creating something together, rather than the youth worker setting the session or setting the aims and what we're going to do it. Why not, why not let young folk do more and more of that, and let them have that accountability in the relationship and drive that relationship as they wish. Try and use real names where possible. Try and use video where possible. And we know some of the circumstances around about that and some of the sensitivities around about that. Completely appreciate that. Completely understand that. But one of the bits that we talk about with trust is that maybe we can build towards that, or as much of that as you possibly can. And then lastly on this little bit, super highways to empathetic interaction. Synchronous activity. So basically, can you do something where you all do online together? So whether that is, the cup thing, whether it is throwing a ball up and down, whether it is, I've seen some totally random stuff, like people like giving themselves a hug. That, believe it or not, it works. It's completely random. So like, I'm not asking you to do this, because if somebody asks me to do this, I might get a bit freaked out by it. But try it in the privacy of your own teams or whatever. Like literally, as much as that, if everybody gives themselves a hug, what that does biologically with us, it feels like we're all connected. So we're apart, but we're connected. So try and build in that synchronous types of activity where we're all doing the same thing at the same time, because what we do then is we connect to times where we felt like that, we get those feelings and we're with that people, and then that builds that connection further. Peer power, so like there's removing this idea of us and them. I know we're good at that naturally as youth workers anyway, but this idea of empowering or enabling young people to say, well, you take us on this, you guide us on this, you're the most important people in this relationship here. How do we do that? And then just try to nudge that then into the kind of co-creation spaces. How do you really let young people lead? If you get a project where you let young people lead it, you're going to have a much better chance of success, because the type of drive that young person will have is intrinsic to them, and they're doing it because they really, really, really want to do it. Back to the voluntary nature and participation of youth work. So this idea that young people can drive that. So maybe things around, is it stuff about campaigning? Is it stuff around getting their voice heard? Is it stuff around, whatever that may be? I'm terrible at creating these ideas, but I can tell you the construction of them. So, and then we're kind of getting to the last couple of minutes of this now. What I want you to do in the chat function for me, if you can, is I want to go through another exercise, a bit of practical work here. Think about you in the shoes of a young person. So you are a young person that you've worked with, or if you don't work with young people directly, maybe it's another person that you've had a good relationship with. Put yourself in the shoes of a young person. I'm able to build a meaningful relationship with my youth worker when, okay, I'm going to say I am treated, and then you pop that word. How are you treated when you're able to build a good relationship with a youth worker? So you put yourself in the shoes of a young person. What does your youth worker need to treat you like to build a relationship? Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Respectfully, thanks, Donna. With no judgment. Absolutely. It's one of the things, like a real person, not a child. Okay, equity. With kindness as an equal. So you see the fairly, you see the relationship between the stuff we've just talked about, what we do now. You do a lot of this stuff already. Fairly, with respect, equality. Brilliant. All right, we're going to move this on to the next stage. When you're treated with equality, when you're treated with honesty, when you're seen as a real person and not as a character or a you know, an unnamed bit of society, how does that make you feel? So this makes me feel. How do you feel when you're treated like that? When somebody sees you as an individual and values you as an individual, how do you feel? Valid, valued, seen, worthwhile, acknowledged, valued, invested in, amazing, respected, have a purpose, important. Newsflash, we all do. This is what we all need all the time. This is what makes us make sense of the world. And when the world is going to shit round about us, that means more. That is the bit that really draws us in, that says, I'm seen here, I'm safe here, I'm supported here, I'm valued and trusted here. The voice that I have here is respected. You imagine being locked down in a place where your voice isn't heard, right? And I know that kind of sometimes describes the way that my relationship with my kids goes. It's like, well, I don't care what I say, I just want you to do it anyway. If you've been stuck in that relationship, it shows the importance of what we are doing right now. So when I feel valued, understood, important, equal, I am, what does that make me do then as a result of feeling like that? Put one word in the chat for me. So when I feel supported, when I feel equal, what does that? Makes me more likely to get involved. Brilliant. Makes me braver. Makes me more willing, more motivated, more happy. It makes me feel like I'm in a good place. It makes me feel safe, open, confident. These are brilliant. Okay, I'm not teaching you anything new here. This is the stuff that you already know. Feel accepted, feel confident. And then lastly, because I'm conscious of the time, how do we move that on to other people? You know, as a young person, how might you reach out to somebody else and pass on that feeling of being accepted or worthy or influential or respected, or it's okay to be me? Any thoughts on how you close that loop, to pass it round? You smile, share the power, you maybe listen, you maybe have the confidence to listen. We had I think it was you, maybe Rachel, talked about earlier that the young person had shared they had reached out for the first time in lockdown just this last week. Amazing. That doesn't happen on its own. It happens over small sequential steps that are built up. That's absolutely brilliant. These types of exercises and visioning exercises are brilliant to do with young people because it gets them to tell their own story. And then it allows you to draw that information and that knowledge about what they need and what they feel, what they like and what they don't like, in a way that we would naturally do in a conversation and face-to-face. On an online setting, this is an example of how we do that. Just very, very quickly as we go then, just some examples of that, of what these elements look like. So the warm mug we've talked about, manage vulnerability, so a whole person check-in, you know, this idea, how you doing? You know, where I come from in Fife, how you doing, right? The answer would be all right. And that word, all right, you could take 8 or 9 or 10 different meanings from the word all right, depending on the way it was said. Much harder to pull that out in this type of setting. So maybe think about creative questions around how you might draw out how that young people might be responding to the stimuluses that are in their life at any one time. And there's a brilliant article online somewhere, I'll dig it out, about 25 things to use instead of saying, are you okay? It's really good. We'll keep firing through it. Things like peer power. you know, we know this intrinsically, try and get as much of the power back out to the young people as they can to lead. So things like, I think it was Jenny that did the takeover stuff, the Instagram takeovers. We trust young people, right? That's one of the things that sets youth workers apart. We intrinsically trust our young people. So try and give as much of that power back to them as you can. We'll send these out to you in a PDF, so don't worry. I'm conscious then that time is almost out. What we want to do, I should have set up polls in this, but we're having problems with this account this morning, so I've not got the polls set up. But I'd like you to pop in the chat for me if you could, what you want to do next. Where do you want to take this relationship? So do you want to do something like a hackathon? Do you want to get together in small groups, set a task to create the best bit of online youth work that's ever existed? And we get to go together, we spend a morning together, we work in small groups, we maybe look at some of the ideas that we've had, we've rushed through now in more depth and detail, and we talked about that practically, and then we build that into a bit of youth work. Do you want another learning piece? Do you want the information here to disseminate to your team, to your volunteers? Drop that in the chat for us. If you can, tell us how you want to go next and what you want to do next. I'm going to shut up now by saying two things. One, relationships matter, the connections matter. So whatever it is that you're doing with your youth work, keep those connections in any way that you can. Because that is the most important bit. And young people will understand it as different, but try and keep those connections going as much as you can. If you're fighting IT departments, solidarity with you. I'm fighting that fight with you. It would be the one thing that I would change if I could. I'd get rid of them all and let you use the tools that you needed to and trust you to use them safely. I just, keep being young people's best supporters and friends, and keep helping them with those connections, disconnections and reconnections. I'm going to shut up. If you've got questions, pop them in the chat box. If you want to ask it in face-to-face, then please unmute yourself and ask away.
Okay, I'll just leap in there. Ali, fantastic, really brilliant to get these practical suggestions and just to get us thinking about how to use the sort of digital, use the youth work knowledge and practice that we all have, and just begin to think about perhaps how we do that in today's world. So yeah, does anybody have we literally have 2 or 3 minutes left because we need to end this call just in 2 or 3 minutes. So anybody want to leap in with a quick question? Robert, have you got your hand on your head because you want to ask a question? No. Okay. And I can't necessarily see everybody on the screen.
I'll take screen 2, Hillary. You do screen 1.
Yeah, do just chat if you go unmute and speak to us if you've got a question. If not, my question, Ali, would just be if you had one top tip for us to do those things that you've been talking about, but we're on a Zoom call at the time or something equivalent, what would be that one thing that we should do? So I think that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Give young people the power and control. Let them lead it, because that naturally engages all of those centres that we talked about there. It's like self-direction, basically. Rather than trying to create that self-direction and lead that self-direction, if you just give a young person an achievable task to do and complete, then they will use their automatic self-direction themselves to do that. So turn as much of the practice over as physically possible. There you go. We're doing it in the fly. That's my kids calling me.